He thought it was just a prank. He thought the badge on his chest gave him the power to humiliate anyone he chose. When Officer Ronan Blaine sliced the tire of that sleek black Mustang, he didn't just damage rubber. He triggered a war he wasn't equipped to fight. He saw a random black man passing through his town. He didn't see the ghost. He didn't see the classified clearance, the Medal of Honor, or the confirmed missions behind enemy lines. This is the story of how a small-town bully accidentally poked the deadliest bear in the U.S. military, and the catastrophic, beautiful karma that followed. You are not going to believe how this ends. The heat in Oak Haven, Georgia, was not just a temperature. It was a physical weight. It pressed down on the asphalt of Main Street, making the air shimmer and the locals move with a sluggish, defeated rhythm. For Officer Ronan Blaine, the heat was just another excuse for his foul mood. Ronan was with a hairline that was retreating faster than his ambition. He sat in his cruiser, parked in the shaded alleyway beside Miller's Diner, watching the world go by through aviator sunglasses that he thought made him look like a movie star. They didn't. They just hid eyes that had grown cold and cynical. He had been on the force for years, and in that time, he had learned one specific lesson in Oak Haven. The badge was not a shield. It was a scepter. "Dead," he muttered, tapping his fingers against the steering wheel. "Whole town is dead." The radio crackled with the voice of Dispatcher Mira, a woman whose voice sounded like she gargled gravel. "Unit 4. We got a noise complaint on Elm. Old man Henderson's dog again." Ronan rolled his eyes. "Copy, Mira. I'm on administrative observation. I'll get to it." He wasn't going to get to it. He was bored. And when Ronan Blaine was bored, he got mean. He looked for entertainment, and his form of entertainment usually involved making someone else's day miserable. It was a power trip, a way to remind himself that he mattered. Then he saw it. Cruising down Main Street was a car that didn't belong. It was a Ford Mustang Boss 429 painted a deep obsidian black. The chrome caught the brutal midday sun and scattered it like diamonds. The engine purred with a low, throaty rumble that vibrated in Ronan's chest, even from yards away. It was a machine of beauty, maintained with an obsession that bordered on religious. Ronan sat up straighter. "Well, hello there." The Mustang slowed and pulled into the parking lot of the general store, a relic that sold everything from transmission fluid to ham sandwiches. Ronan watched as the driver's door opened. The man who stepped out was tall, easily. He was African American, built like a linebacker who had leaned out for speed. He wore a simple gray t-shirt that strained slightly against his biceps, dark jeans, and combat boots. He moved with a fluidity that was unusual for a man of his size. No wasted energy, head on a swivel, scanning the environment not out of fear, but out of habit. Ronan felt that familiar prickle of irritation. It was the jealousy of the small man witnessing the effortless confidence of the superior man. He didn't like the car. He didn't like the way the man walked. And if he was being honest with himself, which he rarely was, he didn't like the man's skin color in a car that cost more than Ronan's house. "Drug money," Ronan whispered to the empty cruiser, formulating the narrative that would justify his boredom. "Got to be. Atlanta dealer passing through." The stranger locked the Mustang with a manual click of the key and walked into the store. Ronan saw his window. He checked the street. Empty. The heat kept everyone indoors. He put the cruiser in drive and rolled silently across the street, pulling up right alongside the Mustang's rear passenger side. He didn't turn on his lights. He stepped out, hitching up his belt. The heat hit him, but the adrenaline of the prank cooled him down. He walked around the back of the Mustang, running a hand over the spoiler. No dust? Perfect condition. Too nice, Ronan sneered. He looked toward the shop window. The stranger was at the counter buying a bottle of water and a pack of beef jerky. His back was turned. Ronan reached into his tactical vest and pulled out his personal knife, a bench-made folder with a serrated edge. He knelt by the rear passenger tire. He didn't want to slash it. That was too loud, too obvious. He wanted a slow leak, or better yet, a sidewall puncture that would blow out miles down the road, leaving the drug dealer stranded in the middle of the swamplands. "Oops," Ronan whispered, grinning. He jammed the tip of the blade into the sidewall of the pristine Goodyear Eagle tire. He twisted it. The air hissed out, an angry viper sound, but Ronan covered the noise by coughing loudly. He gave it a second twist to ensure the structural integrity was ruined. Then he stood up, retracted the blade, and slipped it back into his vest. He was back in his cruiser in seconds. He reversed, pulled a U-turn, and parked across the street facing the Mustang. He wanted a front row seat. He wanted to watch the realization. He wanted to be the hero who rolled up to offer help only to run the man's ID and find the warrants he was sure existed. Inside the store, the man paid with cash. The cashier, a teenager named Harlan, who knew everyone in 3 counties, looked at the stranger. "Nice car, sir," Harlan said. "Thank you," the man said. His voice was a deep baritone, calm and polite. "Just passing through." "Where you headed?" "North." The answer was abrupt, shutting down the conversation. The man took his water and walked out. From his cruiser, Ronan watched the man approach the car. He waited for the man to get in and drive off. He wanted to tail him until the tire gave out, but the stranger didn't get in. He stopped feet from the car. He didn't look at the tire. He looked directly across the street, through the tinted windshield of the police cruiser, locking eyes with Ronan. Ronan froze. The tint was illegal. Nobody could see in, yet he felt like the man was staring right at his soul. The stranger slowly lowered his gaze to the rear passenger tire. He didn't bend down. He didn't kick it. He just looked at it, then looked back at the cruiser. He knows, Ronan thought, a sudden chill running down his spine. How the hell does he know? The man walked around the car, inspecting the damage. He crouched, touched the puncture mark, and rubbed the rubber dust between his fingers. He stood up, pulled a cell phone from his pocket, and snapped a photo of the tire. Then he raised the phone and took a photo of Ronan's cruiser. Ronan's arrogance snapped back into place. "Oh, you want to play the lawyer game? You want to document evidence? Let's see how that works when you're in cuffs." Ronan flipped on his lights, blue and red flashing against the storefronts. He chirped the siren once, loud and aggressive. He threw the door open and marched across the street, hand resting on his holster. "Step away from the vehicle," Ronan shouted, playing the part of the concerned, authoritative officer. The stranger turned slowly. He didn't raise his hands, but he kept them visible, palms open near his waist. It was the stance of someone who knew exactly how to disarm a person, but was choosing not to. "Is there a problem, officer?" the man asked. "I saw you loitering around this vehicle," Ronan lied, his voice booming for the benefit of anyone watching. "And now I see you got a flat. That looks like vandalism. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?" The stranger's face remained a mask of stone. "I was inside buying water. I came out and my tire was punctured. Sidewall. Knife wound." "Knife wound? You're a forensic expert now." Ronan laughed, stepping into the man's personal space. "Let me see some ID now." The man didn't blink. "Am I being detained?" "You are being investigated for suspicious activity in a high-crime area." Ronan spat, making things up as he went. ID or you? Right in the back. The stranger stared at him for a long beat. It wasn't a stare of defiance. It was the look a scientist gives a lab rat that is about to run into a maze it cannot solve. Very well, the man said. He reached slowly for his back pocket. Slow, Ronan barked, unsnapping his holster. The man produced a wallet and handed over a driver's license. Ronan snatched it. Darius Voss. Age. Address redacted. Virginia. Redacted? Ronan frowned. He had never seen an address listed as redacted on a license before. It looked like a standard Virginia license, but the data felt off. Redacted, huh? Ronan smirked. What? You homeless or just hiding from child support? Darius Voss didn't answer. He just watched Ronan with those unsettling dark eyes. Dispatch. Run a 27 on a Darius Voss. Virginia license. I'll give you the number. Ronan radioed into his shoulder mic. He read the number out. He waited, staring at Darius, smiling that oily predator smile. You know, boy, usually folks with cars like this around here, they sell things they shouldn't. We got a K9 unit coming. If you got anything in there, tell me now and I might go easy on you. Darius remained silent. He took a sip of his water. Unit 4. Mira's voice came back over the radio, but she sounded different, confused. Unit 4, stand by. Stand by? What do you mean, stand by? Does he have warrants or not? Unit 4, the system is... It's flashing, Mira said. It's giving me a code 99. I don't even know what a code 99 is, Ronan. It says do not detain. Contact DOD immediately. Ronan froze. DOD, Department of Defense. He looked at Darius. Darius looked at the tire, then back at Ronan. You need to call your supervisor, Darius said softly. And you need to call a tow truck for my car. A flatbed. If you tow it with a hook, you'll damage the differential, and you can't afford that. Ronan's face turned red. The embarrassment was hot and prickly. He was being lectured by the suspect. He was losing control of the scene. I don't take orders from you, Ronan snarled. He clicked his radio off. Mira's computer's glitching. Always does in this heat. He grabbed his handcuffs. Darius Voss, turn around. You're under arrest. Darius tilted his head. For what? Disorderly conduct, Ronan said, grabbing Darius's arm and resisting arrest. It happened in a blur. Ronan yanked the arm, expecting resistance. He got none. But as he tried to twist Darius's arm behind his back, he felt like he was trying to bend a steel rebar. Darius didn't move. He just planted his feet. Ronan pulled harder, grunting. Turn around! Ronan shouted, panic rising. Darius leaned in, his voice dropping to that dangerous gravel tone. Officer, if you put those cuffs on me, you are ending your career. I am giving you one chance. Walk away. Ronan's ego screamed louder than his survival instinct. He pulled his taser. Get on the ground! Taser! Taser! He pulled the trigger. The prongs hit Darius in the chest. Darius flinched. His muscles locked up for a second as the electricity coursed through him. He groaned, dropping to one knee. But he didn't scream. He didn't thrash. He breathed through the voltage, his teeth gritted, eyes locked on Ronan. The cycle ended. Ronan stood there, panting, hands shaking. Darius was on one knee, smoke rising slightly from the probes in his shirt. Darius looked up. The calm was gone. In its place was a calculated rage that promised annihilation. Bad move, Darius whispered. The holding cell at the Oak Haven Police Department smelled of pine sol and old vomit. It was a cage designed to break the spirit of drunks and petty thieves. Darius Voss sat on the metal bench, his hands cuffed behind his back. He hadn't said a word since the ride over. He had the taser prongs removed by a nervous paramedic in the booking area, but he refused medical treatment. He sat perfectly still, eyes closed, meditating. He was running a tactical assessment of his situation. Enemy, local law enforcement, hostile, low training, high ego, asset status, vehicle compromised, communications compromised, phone confiscated, objective, limit collateral damage, await extraction. Outside the cell, the station was buzzing. Chief Novak, a man whose belly hung over his belt like a sack of flour, stormed into the bullpen. "Ronan, where the hell is he?" Novak shouted. Officer Ronan Blaine was sitting at his desk, filling out the arrest report. He looked up, trying to look casual, but his hands were still trembling slightly. "In the tank, Chief. Guy was a maniac. Resisted arrest. Had to ride the lightning." "A maniac!" Chief Novak slammed a piece of paper on Ronan's desk. "Mira said the NCIC database lit up like a Christmas tree when she ran him. Code 99. You know what that is?" "A glitch," Ronan said dismissively. "It ain't a glitch." Novak wiped sweat from his forehead. "I just got a call from the state police. They got a flag on their system the second you booked him. They asked if we had a high-value asset in custody. They didn't ask his name, Ronan. They asked for his serial number." Ronan paused. "State police for a speeder? You said it was disorderly conduct." "He had an attitude, and the car is suspicious." The phone on Novak's desk rang. It was the red line, the direct line to the mayor's office. Novak picked it up. "Chief Novak." "Yes, Mr. Mayor." "Wait, who is calling you?" "The governor." "Why is the governor calling you?" Novak's face went pale. He looked at Ronan. He covered the receiver. "The governor is on the line with the mayor. He says we need to release the prisoner immediately." Ronan stood up, indignant. "Chief, we can't let him go. I tased him. If we let him go without a charge, he sues the department. We have to stick to the charge. Disorderly conduct. We hold him for hours, drop it, and kick him out of town." Novak hesitated. He was a politician as much as a cop. He knew Ronan was right about the lawsuit. If they admitted a mistake now after a taser deployment, the liability was massive. "Book him," Novak whispered into the phone. "Tell the mayor. Tell him the suspect was violent. We're processing him." Novak hung up. "You better be right, Ronan. If this guy is somebody, you better pray he's just somebody rich, not somebody important." Miles away at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, inside a windowless room known as the TOC, Tactical Operations Center, of the Delta Force compound, a red light blinked on a monitor. Captain Tariq Hale, a communications officer, frowned. He tapped his keyboard. "Commander, we got a hit on the tracker. Lieutenant Colonel Novak." Lieutenant Colonel Novak walked over. He was a man made of wire and scar tissue. "Tracker? Which one?" "Apex," Hale said. "Colonel Voss's personal vehicle, and his biometric watch just sent a stress signal. Elevated heart rate. Galvanic skin response suggests electrical shock." Novak went still. "Apex is on leave. He's driving up to see his daughter in D.C. Location is Oak Haven, Georgia, police station." Novak picked up a secure phone. "Get me the JSOC watch, Commander, and get the bird spun up." "Sir, Darius doesn't get arrested. If Darius is in a cage, it's because he chose not to kill everyone who tried to put him there. But if he was shocked, that means they hurt him." Novak's voice was terrifyingly calm. "Call the base commander. Tell him we are initiating a recovery op, and get me the number for the Oak Haven Police Department. I want to talk to the idiot in charge before I burn his town down." Back in Oak Haven, the door to the holding cell opened. Ronan Blaine walked in holding a cup of coffee. He felt braver now that Darius was behind bars. "Comfortable?" Ronan asked, leaning against the bars. Darius opened his eyes. "You have minutes, Officer Blaine." "Minutes for what?" "To resign. To leave this building. To go home and pack your family and move." Ronan laughed. "You think you're tough? You think because you drive a muscle car you scare me? I looked at your record, Voss. It's empty. No job listed. No family listed. You're a ghost. That means nobody cares if you sit in here for a week." Darius stood up. He walked to the bars. He towered over Ronan. "My record is empty because people like you don't have the clearance to read it. I am a colonel in the 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment, Delta. I am the commander of a squadron." Ronan sneered. "Special Forces? You look like a bouncer?" "I have killed men for looking at my team the wrong way in Kandahar," Darius said, his voice dropping to that dangerous gravel tone. "But today, I was just going to visit my daughter. You ruined my tire. You tased me. You violated my civil rights." "Prove it," Ronan said. "I don't have to prove it to you." Darius said, "My team is already inbound. And officer, they don't carry tasers." Suddenly, the lights in the police station flickered. The air conditioning unit groaned and died. The hum of the electronics in the bullpen cut out. Silence descended on the station. "What did you do?" Ronan asked, stepping back. "I didn't do anything," Darius said from the cell, his voice carrying through the darkness. "That's the jamming signal. They're here." The silence in the station was heavy, broken only by the confused shouting of dispatcher Mira from the front desk. "Phones are dead. Cell service is down. Even the internet is out." Chief Novak ran into the hallway. "Ronan, what is going on?" Ronan looked at Darius, then back at the chief. "Power outage, Chief. Probably the heat blew a transformer." "Transformers don't kill cell signals," Darius said from the cell. Chief Novak grabbed his keys. "I'm going to check the breaker box outside." Novak opened the back exit door of the station, which led to the fenced-in parking lot. He froze. Hovering silently above the station, blacked out against the twilight sky, was a helicopter. It wasn't a police chopper. It was an MH-6 Little Bird, the kind with benches on the sides. And on the roof of the station, Novak saw silhouettes, 4 of them fast roping down the side of the building with the grace of spiders. Novak stumbled back inside. "Ronan, lock the doors. Lock the damn doors." "Who is it?" Ronan pulled his gun. It's the army or SWAT, I don't know." Crash! The front glass doors of the Oak Haven Police Department shattered inward, not from an explosion, but from a synchronized breach. 2 canisters rolled across the floor. Flashbangs. Bang! Bang! White light blinded Ronan. A concussive wave knocked him off his feet. He dropped his gun, clutching his ears. "Police! Don't move! Drop the weapons!" It wasn't the police shouting. The voices were crisp, overlapping, and professional. Through the ringing in his ears, Ronan looked up. Standing over him were 4 figures clad in full tactical gear. Multicam black, quad nods, night vision goggles flipped up, suppressed HK-416 rifles trained on his chest. No badges, no name tapes, just patches that looked like a dagger inside a triangle. One of the operators stepped on Ronan's hand, pinning it to the floor. "Weapon secure?" the operator said. Chief Novak was on his knees, hands on his head, weeping. "Don't shoot. I'm the chief of police." A 5th man walked in through the smoke. He wasn't wearing a helmet. He wore a beret and a dress uniform jacket over his tactical pants. It was Lieutenant Colonel Tariq Lang. He walked right past Ronan, stepping over him like he was trash, and went straight to the holding cell. Lang looked through the bars at Darius. "You okay, boss?" Lang asked. Darius stood up and sighed. I told you not to make a scene, Tariq. We lost your signal. Standard protocol. Lang signaled to one of the operators. Cut him out. The operator produced a set of bolt cutters and snapped the padlock on the cell door like it was a twig. Darius stepped out. He rubbed his wrists where the cuffs had been. Ronan Blaine, still pinned to the floor, looked up with wide, terrified eyes. Who are you people? You can't just storm a police station. This is domestic terrorism. Darius walked over to Ronan. He crouched down. The other operators kept their rifles trained on Ronan's head. I told you, Darius said. Delta Force. Darius reached into Ronan's pocket and pulled out his keys. He tossed them to Lang. My car's across the street, flat tire. We have a mechanic on the bird, Lang said. We'll fix it. Darius looked at Chief Novak. Chief, I suggest you call the governor back. Tell him that Colonel Darius Voss is no longer in custody. And tell him that the Department of Justice will be arriving to audit every single arrest record, ticket, and seizure this department has made. Novak sobbed. Yes, sir. Darius turned his gaze back to Ronan. As for you, Officer Blaine, the military can't charge you, but we can make you famous. Darius pulled a small, ruggedized camera from Lang's vest. How did we get the drone footage? We have clear 4K video of him slashing your tire from the Reaper drone that was transiting the area for training. Lang lied smoothly. It wasn't a lie. They didn't have a Reaper, but they had satellite imagery that would be retasked. And we have the audio from your watch. Good, Darius said. Upload it to everything. YouTube, news stations, the ACLU. Darius stood up. Let's go. The operators moved out as quickly as they came. They vanished into the night, taking Darius with them. The helicopter spun up and lifted off, the wash kicking up dust into the open door of the station. Ronan Blaine lay on the floor of his own station, the silence returning, heavier than before. He realized with a sinking horror that the war hadn't ended. It had just begun. The morning sun over Oak Haven usually brought a sense of lazy continuity, but today, it rose over a town that felt like a crime scene. Ronan Blaine woke up in his small, messy apartment to the sound of his phone vibrating off the nightstand. It wasn't a ring. It was a continuous, angry buzz of notifications. He rubbed his eyes, the memory of the flashbangs still echoing in his skull like a bad hangover. For a split second, he hoped it had been a nightmare. The Delta Force team, the humiliation, the colonel. He picked up his phone. The screen was a wall of text messages, missed calls, and news alerts. Dude, you're on CNN. Is that you in the video? Mom is crying. Call her. Don't come into the station today, Chief. Ronan's stomach turned to ice. He opened YouTube. The top trending video, uploaded hours ago, was titled Corrupt Cop Caught, The Oak Haven Trap. It already had millions of views. He clicked it. His hands shook. The video was a split-screen masterpiece of incriminating evidence. On the left was high-grain black and white footage from what looked like a satellite or a high-altitude drone. It showed his cruiser pulling up to the Mustang. It zoomed in with terrifying clarity, showing Ronan kneeling, pulling the knife and twisting it into the tire. The audio was crystal clear, pulled from Darius's biometric watch or the cruiser's own internal dash cam that had been remotely accessed. Oops, Ronan's voice whispered on the video. Gotta be drug money. Then the video cut to the confrontation. The camera angle switched to a POV shot, likely from a button camera on Darius's shirt that Ronan hadn't even noticed. I'm giving you one chance. Walk away. Then the taser shot. The footage showed Darius taking the voltage without screaming, a testament to a level of discipline that made Ronan look like a petulant child with a toy. Ronan threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and cracked. "No!" he gasped. "No, no, no." He scrambled to get dressed, putting on his uniform out of habit. Then, realizing he couldn't wear it, he put on jeans and a hoodie, pulling the hood up. He had to get to the station. He had to explain. He had to tell Chief Novak that the video was doctored, a deep fake, something the military cooked up to frame him. He drove his personal truck, a lifted Chevy that suddenly felt very conspicuous. As he turned onto Main Street, he slammed on the brakes. The Oak Haven police station was surrounded. It wasn't just news vans. They were satellite trucks from Fox, MSNBC, CNN, and the BBC. There was a crowd of protesters, locals, mostly people Ronan had ticketed or harassed over the years, holding signs. Justice for the ghost. Fire gentry. Audit the badge. And parked right in front of the entrance were 4 black SUVs with government plates. Men in blue windbreakers with yellow lettering were carrying boxes out of the station. FBI. Ronan reversed. He couldn't go there. He turned down an alley, heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He needed a friend. He dialed his partner, Officer Declan Riley. "Declan, you gotta help me," Ronan pleaded when Declan answered. "Don't call me," Declan hissed. His voice sounded tight, scared. "The feds are seizing our phones, Ronan. They're looking at everything. The text messages, the group chat, everything." The group chat. Ronan felt the blood drain from his face. The Oak Haven night shift group chat was a digital cesspool. It was where they bragged about thumping suspects, shared photos of confiscated cash they hadn't logged, and made jokes that would end careers instantly. "They have it, Ronan," Declan whispered. Chief Novak flipped. "He's cutting a deal. He told them you were the ringleader. He told them about the planted evidence in the Johnson case." I was following orders," Ronan screamed at the windshield. "They don't care. You're the face of it now. You're the guy who stabbed the Delta Force commander's tire. You're radioactive." Declan hung up. Ronan sat in his truck in the alley behind the bowling alley, the air conditioner blasting but failing to cool the sweat on his neck. He was alone. For the first time in his life, the town he treated like his playground was closing in on him. While Ronan cowered in his truck, the machinery of justice, real justice, not the small-town variety, was grinding Oak Haven into dust. Assistant U.S. Attorney Serena Hale, a sharp, terrifying prosecutor from Atlanta, had set up a command post in the mayor's conference room. She was looking at a whiteboard filled with names. Ronan Blaine was at the center. "Talk to me," Hale said, sipping an espresso. Special Agent Thorne, FBI, not the chief, placed a file on the table. "It's worse than we thought. We pulled Blaine's arrest records. He has a high conviction rate for resisting arrest. That is statistically impossible unless every person in Oak Haven is a ninja. But pattern of behavior, textbook," the agent said. "He targets out-of-towners or locals with low income, people who can't afford lawyers. He hits them with a trumped-up charge, offers to drop it if they pay a fine in cash, or confiscates property as evidence that never makes it to the locker. And Darius Voss, that was his fatal error." The agent smiled grimly. "Voss's dash cam was running the whole time inside the Mustang. We have audio of Blaine plotting the tire slash before he even got out of his car. But here's the kicker." The agent tapped a photo of the tire. "We had the tire analyzed at the Quantico lab. The angle of the cut, the residue, it matches 3 other unsolved vandalism cases in the county where suspects' cars were disabled before they were arrested. He creates the emergency, then arrests them for it." Hale nodded. "RICO. We're going for a RICO case, racketeering. This isn't one bad apple. It's a criminal enterprise disguised as a police department. Where is Blaine? Hiding, the agent said. But he can't leave. The state troopers have the county locked down. We're letting him sweat. It makes the interview easier. Ronan eventually went home. He had nowhere else to go. He parked his truck and ran inside, locking the deadbolt, closing the blinds. He paced the living room, drinking whiskey straight from the bottle, watching the news with the volume off. His face was everywhere. They were interviewing his high school classmates. They were interviewing the man whose arm he broke, a man Ronan claimed had reached for a weapon, but who was now weeping on national television, vindicated. Then a knock at the door. It wasn't a police knock. It was a gentle, almost polite rap. Ronan froze. He grabbed his service pistol from the table. "Go away," he shouted. "I'm armed." "Ronan, it's me, Pastor Harlan." Ronan lowered the gun slightly. Pastor Harlan had baptized him. He opened the door a crack. The pastor stood there, looking sad. Behind him, however, was not the church choir. It was Darius Voss. Darius was wearing a suit now, charcoal gray, tailored impeccably. He didn't look like a soldier. He looked like a CEO, a man of immense power and gravity. He stood on the porch, hands clasped in front of him. "You?" Ronan raised the gun again. "Drop it, son," Pastor Harlan said gently. "There are snipers in the trees, Ronan. If you raise that gun another inch, you won't hear the shot." Ronan looked past them. In the woods bordering his apartment complex, he saw the glint of optics. The yard was filled with SWAT officers, silent and static. Ronan dropped the gun. It clattered on the floor. He collapsed onto his knees, sobbing. Darius stepped past the pastor and entered the apartment. He looked around at the mess, the whiskey bottle, the dirty laundry, the life of a man who never grew up. "Get up," Darius said. Ronan looked up, eyes red. "Are you going to kill me?" "No," Darius said. "Death is easy. You earned a harder punishment." Darius walked over to the TV and turned the volume up. "Breaking news. The governor has announced the immediate dissolution of the Oak Haven Police Department. All current officers have been stripped of their badges pending federal indictment." Darius turned the volume back down. "You have lost your shield, Ronan. Now you have to live in this world as a civilian with a face everyone knows." "Why are you here?" Ronan whispered. "To give you this." Darius reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. He tossed it onto the coffee table. "That is a bill," Darius said, "for the tire and for the towing and for the rental car I'm using. It comes to $4,300. You can pay it in installments." "That's it? You came here for money?" "I came here to look you in the eye," Darius said, leaning down, his face inches from Ronan's. "And to tell you that I reviewed your files, the people you hurt, the ones you framed. My legal team is representing them now, pro bono. Every penny you have, every penny you ever make, is going to them. You will work for the rest of your life, Ronan, and you will own nothing." Darius straightened up. "Agent, he's all yours." A team of FBI agents swarmed the room. They cuffed Ronan, not gently, but with the cold efficiency he used to admire. As they dragged him out, he saw Darius standing on the porch, watching. Darius didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He just watched, a silent guardian ensuring the trash was taken out. The trial of Ronan Blaine was not held in Oak Haven. It was moved to Atlanta, to the federal courthouse, citing the impossibility of finding an impartial jury in a town that now loathed him. The courtroom was packed every day. It was a circus. But for Ronan, it was a slow, agonizing suffocation. He sat at the defense table wearing a cheap suit his public defender had bought him. He had no money for a private lawyer. His assets had been frozen. His friends from the force were either in prison or had washed their hands of him to save their own pensions. Chief Novak took the stand. It was Ronan's idea. Novak lied, sweating under the lights. He ran the street. I looked the other way because I was afraid of him. Ronan screamed, "You liar! You took half the cash!" "Order!" The judge banged the gavel. "Mr. Blaine, one more outburst and you will be bound and gagged." But the worst day wasn't the betrayal of his friends. It was the day the victims testified. An elderly woman, Mrs. Thorne. Ronan had arrested her grandson for possession. The drugs were planted. Her grandson lost his scholarship and joined the army to escape the stigma, only to die in a training accident. "You took my boy," Mrs. Thorne said, pointing a shaking finger at Ronan. "You took him because you were bored, because you wanted to feel big." Ronan looked down at his hands. For the first time, the reality of his actions pierced his narcissism. He hadn't just popped tires, he had popped lives. When Darius Voss took the stand, the room went silent. The prosecutor, Ms. Hale, walked him through the events. "Colonel Voss, did you provoke Officer Blaine?" "No, ma'am." "Did you resist arrest?" "I engaged in passive noncompliance to prevent an unlawful escalation." "How did it feel to be tased?" Darius looked at Ronan. "It felt like a mosquito bite compared to what the men and women of this town have felt. Pain is temporary. The betrayal of the public trust is a permanent scar." The jury was out for less than hours. Guilty. 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 Counts: civil rights violations, racketeering, assault, filing false reports. The judge, a stern woman who had no patience for bullies, looked at Ronan over her glasses. "Mr. Blaine, you treated the law like a weapon and your badge like a crown. You are a disgrace to every officer who actually serves the public. I am sentencing you to years in federal prison without the possibility of parole." Ronan didn't cry this time. He just felt numb. A heavy gray curtain had fallen over his life. Federal prison was a universe away from the petty kingdom Ronan Blaine had once ruled. It was a cold, indifferent machine designed to strip a man of his identity until only a number remained. For years, Ronan was a ghost in the system. As an ex-cop, he was a target. The general population saw him not as a man, but as a symbol of every injustice they had ever suffered. To keep him alive, the warden placed him in administrative segregation, solitary confinement. Hours a day in a concrete box, 1 hour in a small caged yard. In the silence, the voices of his past grew loud. He heard the pleading of the people he had bullied. He saw the face of Mrs. Thorne, the grandmother whose life he had ruined. He saw Darius Voss's unblinking stare. The arrogance that had fueled him burned away, leaving nothing but a hollow, trembling fear. He wept until he was dehydrated. He screamed until his voice failed. Then the silence broke him. It happened in year 4. Ronan stopped screaming. He stopped blaming the system or the deep state. He looked in the mirror, a polished piece of steel bolted to the wall, and admitted the truth for the first time. "I did it," he whispered to the reflection. "I was a bad man." He began to read. He devoured books from the prison library cart. He read Dostoevsky, finding comfort in stories of crime and punishment. He read history. He read the letters of men who had survived wars. He started to work out, not to get buff or intimidate, but to feel the pain of exertion, to remind himself he was still alive. By year 10, Ronan was moved to the general population. He was older now, his hair completely gray, his shoulders stooped. He didn't walk with the swagger of Officer Blaine anymore. He walked with his eyes down, a broom in his hand. He became the unit janitor. He cleaned the toilets of drug dealers. He mopped the floors for bank robbers. He never complained. When younger inmates tried to provoke him, expecting the tough cop to fight back, Ronan would simply apologize and keep cleaning. "You ain't no cop," a young gang member named Harlan Thorne once sneered at him. "You're a janitor." "I was never a cop," Ronan replied softly, not looking up. "I was just a bully with a badge. Now I'm just a man." Harlan never bothered him again. Years, days. When the parole board finally granted his release, it wasn't a celebration. It was an eviction. He was given a plastic bag containing a cheap pair of jeans, a white t-shirt, a windbreaker, and $40 in cash. He walked out of the heavy iron gates into a blindingly bright afternoon. The world had changed. Cars looked like spaceships. People were staring at glass rectangles in their hands. There was no one waiting for him. His parents were buried in a cemetery he hadn't been allowed to visit. His ex-wife had remarried and moved to Ohio. His friends from the force were either in prison or had washed their hands of him to save their own skins. Ronan took a Greyhound bus south, but he couldn't bear to go back to Oak Haven. The shame was too physical. It would crush him. He got off in a sprawling, anonymous suburb outside of Atlanta, Georgia. Life on the outside was harder than prison. In prison, he had a bed and food. Out here, he had the scarlet letter. Every job application asked the question, "Have you ever been convicted of a felony?" He applied to warehouses. Rejected. He applied to construction crews. Rejected. He applied to wash dishes. Rejected. Finally, a compassionate manager at a dying shopping mall gave him a chance. Night shift janitor and cart pusher, minimum wage, no benefits. "People here don't like cops, Ronan," the manager warned him. "Keep your head down." "I don't have a head to raise, sir," Ronan said. He lived in a cramped efficiency motel room that smelled of mildew. He ate ramen noodles and canned beans. His knees, ruined by years of sleeping on concrete, ached constantly. But every Friday, he took $20 from his paycheck, money he desperately needed for food, and mailed it to a P.O. box in Oak Haven. It was the fund for the victims of his corruption. It was a drop in the ocean, but it was his penance. One Tuesday night in autumn, the sky opened up. It was a freezing, torrential rain that turned the parking lot into a black lake. Ronan was out in the lot wearing a yellow poncho that was torn at the shoulder. He was wrestling a long snake of shopping carts, fighting against the wind. The cold bit through his thin clothes. He slipped on an oil patch, his bad knee buckling. He went down hard into a puddle, the dirty water soaking his jeans. He lay there for a moment, the rain hammering his face. He felt a sudden, overwhelming urge to just stay there, to let the cold take him. He was tired. So tired. "Get up," a voice in his head said. "Darius stood up when you tased him. You can stand up now." Ronan gritted his teeth. He grabbed the metal wire of a cart and hauled himself up, shivering violently. A pair of headlights cut through the gloom. A car pulled up slowly to the curb near the cart return. It wasn't just a car. It was a Predator, a Mustang Dark Horse blacked out, looking like a stealth bomber on wheels. The engine note was a low, menacing growl that vibrated in the puddles. Ronan froze. The silhouette of the car triggered a panic attack so sharp his vision blurred. It was the ghost of his sin come back to haunt him on a rainy Tuesday. Is it him? Ronan thought, terror seizing his throat. Did he come to finish it? The driver's side window rolled down with a smooth electric hum. Ronan braced himself for a weapon, for a shout, for a curse. Instead, he saw a young woman. She was striking, with skin the color of deep mahogany and eyes that held a fierce, intelligent light. She was dressed in a business suit. She looked at Ronan, wet, shivering, broken. "Excuse me, sir," she called out over the rain. Ronan flinched. He wiped water from his eyes. I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm moving the carts. I'll get them out of your way." "I'm not worried about the carts," she said. Her voice was warm, but it carried an authority that made Ronan straighten up. "You're freezing. Where is your coat?" I have this poncho, ma'am. I'm fine." She shook her head. She turned and reached into the passenger seat. She pulled out a large, high-quality umbrella and a heavy wool-lined coat. She opened the door and stepped out into the rain. She walked right up to him. She didn't look at him with disgust. She looked at him with a strange, intense curiosity. "Put this on," she said, holding out the coat. "Ma'am, I can't. I'm dirty. I'll ruin it." "It's just wool," she said. "You're a human being. Put it on." Ronan's hands shook as he took the coat. He draped it over his shoulders. The warmth was instant. Tears pricked his eyes, mixing with the rain. "Thank you," he choked out. You don't know what this means." "I think I do," she said softly. She studied his face. "You're Ronan Blaine." Ronan went still. The warmth turned to ice. He took a step back, ready to run. "Who are you?" "My name is Serena," she said. "Serena Voss." The name hit him like a physical blow. "Voss?" "My father," she nodded. Ronan looked at the ground, shame washing over him so heavily he could barely breathe. Does he know you're here?" "He sent me," Serena said. Ronan looked up, terrified. "To mock me? To see if I'm suffering? You can tell him I am. I'm suffering plenty." Serena smiled, and it wasn't cruel. It was sad. "No, Ronan. He didn't send me to mock you. He sent me to give you a message." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small sealed envelope. She pressed it into Ronan's wet hand. "He's been watching the account," Serena said. "The victim's fund. He knows you send $20 every week. He knows it's half your grocery money." "It's not enough," Ronan whispered. "I know it's not enough." "It's not about the amount," Serena said. "It's about the sacrifice. My father told me a story once. He said there are two ways to defeat an enemy. You can destroy him, which is easy, or you can humble him, which is hard. Destruction creates a void. Humility creates a soul." She gestured to the envelope. "He said you've paid your debt, Ronan. Not the money. The money never mattered to him. You paid with your pride. You killed the man you used to be." Ronan stared at the envelope. "What is this?" "Read it when you're dry," she said. "It's a letter of recommendation. My father owns a security consulting firm in Virginia. It's not glorious work, checking logs, monitoring cameras, but it pays a living wage, and it has benefits. He says if you're willing to work for a man you once tried to hurt, the job is yours." Ronan fell to his knees. The splash of the puddle didn't matter. He wept, his forehead touching the handle of the shopping cart. It wasn't the job. It was the forgiveness. It was the impossible grace of a man he had treated like an animal. "Why?" Ronan sobbed. "Why would he help me?" Serena crouched down, her expensive heels sinking into the wet asphalt, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Because he's a soldier," she said softly. "And a good soldier knows that when the war is over, you help the wounded off the field, even the ones who fought against you." She stood up and walked back to the Mustang. She paused at the door. "The bus ticket is in the envelope, too," she called out. "Don't be late, Mr. Blaine. The colonel hates lateness." She got in. The engine roared to life, a sound of power and freedom. As the Mustang pulled away, its taillights glowing red in the mist, Ronan Blaine remained on his knees. He wasn't the villain anymore. He wasn't the hero. He was just a man who had been broken into pieces and was now finally being given the chance to put himself back together. He stood up. He wrapped the coat tighter around himself. For the first time in years, the rain didn't feel like punishment. It felt like a baptism. The story of Ronan Blaine is a brutal reminder that power without character is a ticking time bomb. He thought he was untouchable, but he learned that true strength isn't about badges or guns. It's about integrity. Darius Voss didn't just defeat Ronan with force. He defeated him with mercy, proving that the ultimate victory isn't destroying your enemy, but allowing them to change. If this story hit you in the feels, please smash that like button. It helps us tell more stories like this. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode of Karma Strikes Back. Share this video with someone who needs to see that it's never too late for redemption. Thanks for watching.